Welcome to the front line, where history comes to life. It is April 1945, and on the banks of the Oder River, a wall of sound rolls across the landscape like a moving mountain. Soviet artillery opens fire in the largest bombardment of the European war. Thousands of guns line the riverbank, hidden in forests, dug into fields, parked along every road. When they fire together, the ground shakes as if it is coming apart. Entire belts of trees are shredded into splinters. German bunkers that have been reinforced for months crack open. Concrete slabs tilt, steel doors bend, and dugouts collapse on the men inside. Shockwaves flatten trenches that had been carefully dug by retreating German units. Soldiers cling to the earth while soil rains down on their helmets. Those who survive the first minutes cannot hear anything but a dull ringing. They try to shout orders, but no words come out. When the barrage lifts, it is not a signal to breathe. It is a signal for the next wave. Katyusha rocket batteries unleash their fire, screaming across the river in long trails of smoke. The rockets slam into fields, trenches, and crossroads. They explode in sheets rather than bursts, wiping out entire positions at once. Flames rise on the far bank as if the horizon has been set alight. German troops stagger through the smoke trying to find their rifles. Most never do. Soviet assault groups move immediately. They have drilled for months. They move in teams, sappers carrying charges, infantrymen with submachine guns, men with flamethrowers, snipers watching for machine gun nests. They cross the river in small boats or over makeshift bridges thrown up by engineers who work under constant fire. Tank brigades follow behind. The first tanks drive through burning brush, pushing aside the wreckage of trees and shattered trenches. On the German side, the last defenders know they cannot stop this force. Many are not even soldiers in the old sense. Hitler Youth boys barely 16 years old stand with Panzerfaust held in shaking hands. They hide behind broken farmhouses and ruined tractors, hopping to get close enough to fire one shot before Soviet infantry overwhelm them. Old men from the Volkssturm sit in foxholes, too exhausted to move, clutching old rifles from the First World War. A few SS officers move along the line shouting orders, threatening anyone who tries to run, but even they look stunned at the scale of the attack. Every plan they had depended on buying time, but time is gone. Every position they wanted to hold is already under artillery fire or burning under Katyusha rockets. The Oder River line, which was supposed to delay the Red Army for weeks, is breaking in hours. Soviet commanders on the Western Bank know this is the final drive into Berlin. Marshal Zhukov orders his men forward without pause. He has promised Stalin he will reach the German capital first. To the south, Marshal Konov pushes just as hard. Both men race toward Berlin with armies so large they stretch beyond the horizon. Tanks drive along parallel roads, engines shaking the earth. Infantry march beside them through smoke and drifting ash. The air smells of fuel, mud, and burning pine. Every few minutes the artillery roars again to clear the next German line. German units attempt scattered counterattacks. A group of tanks tries to push forward near the Silo Heights, but the crews find themselves driving straight into anti-tank guns and artillery shells. Several vehicles burst into flames within minutes. Infantry battalions push out to reinforce villages along the road, only to be struck by waves of Soviet mortars. Trucks carrying ammunition race toward the front but never arrive. Soviet aircraft catch them on the roads. Everything the Germans attempt is swallowed by the speed and weight of the Soviet assault. The Silo Heights are the last major defensive position before Berlin. They rise gently above the plain, offering the Germans a final chance to slow the Red Army. Craters cover the slopes. Trees are stripped of branches. Barbed wire lies in tangled heaps. When Soviet infantry reach the base of the heights, they climb through mud and shattered trenches, firing upward at silhouettes they can barely see. German machine gunners fire until their barrels glow red, but they cannot stop the mass of men pushing upward. Soviet tanks grind through anti-tank ditches that engineers fill with logs and debris. Flamethrower teams clear hardened bunkers. The defenders fight until their ammunition runs out or their positions collapse beneath them. By midday, the German line at the heights begins to crumble. Units pull back without orders. Others surrender in small groups. Some simply disappear into the woods. Soviet commanders sense the collapse and commit their reserves. Entire rifle divisions pour through the gaps. Tank brigades surge up the heights, turrets turning from left to right searching for anything still firing. The German defense unraveling here is the last organized barrier before the capital. As evening approaches, Soviet soldiers stand on the ridges looking west. In the distance, beyond low hills and burning villages, they can see the faint glow of Berlin. Artillery thunders again, this time firing deeper into the German rear. The sound rolls across the countryside. For the first time in centuries, Berlin hears the guns of a foreign army drawing closer. The road to the city is open. The end has arrived. Inside Berlin in April 1945, chaos has become daily life. Civilians move through the streets carrying shovels, ordered to dig trenches that everyone knows will not stop tanks. Old men and young boys work side by side, coughing in the dust as explosions rumble in the distance. SS patrols roam through neighborhoods looking for defeatists, dragging people out of basements for saying the war is lost. Posters peel from walls, promising miracle weapons that no one has ever seen. From loudspeakers on street corners, Joseph Goebbels' voice pours through the static. He shouts about betrayal, honor, and final victory, but his words hit a population that is exhausted and starving. Food stores are empty, water lines broken, electricity unreliable. Every night families huddle in cellars listening to artillery coming closer and closer. At the same time, the Red Army is tightening the noose around the capital. To the north, Soviet tank armies push through shattered industrial towns, smashing through the last Luftwaffe airfields where wrecked fighters lie in rows. To the south, more Soviet forces cut road after road, rail line after rail line, collapsing every route that might carry reinforcements. Columns of T-34 tanks roll across fields and broken highways, while infantry advance behind them, clearing villages that barely exist anymore after days of shelling. Resistance appears in flashes, an anti-tank gun hidden behind rubble, a pocket of SS troops firing from a church tower. A Panzerfaust launched from behind a burned-out tram, but each momentary stand is crushed by overwhelming fire. Every hour the ring tightens. German divisions attempting to form defensive lines near the Spree River are shattered. Units that once had 10,000 men now fight with a few hundred survivors. Retreating soldiers arrive in Berlin, with stories of entire regiments wiped out by Soviet armor or scattered by rocket barrages. Some try to regroup in the suburbs, but Soviet artillery reaches them before they have a chance to form proper lines. The Ninth Army, still resisting in the east, finds itself trapped in a tightening pocket. They radio headquarters begging for permission to break out and link up with Berlin's defenders. They argue that staying in place is suicide, that breaking through now is the only chance to save tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians. But orders from the Führerbunker do not change. Hitler refuses every request, insisting the Ninth Army hold its ground and counterattack, even though it has no fuel, almost no ammunition, and barely any communication left. Generals stare at maps that no longer match reality. Roads marked as open have been under Soviet control for days. Units they believe still exist have already surrendered or been destroyed. Yet they continue to receive impossible orders from a leader who has lost all connection to the battlefield. Outside the city, Soviet commanders sense the collapse. They push harder, determined to finish the encirclement before any German relief attempt appears. Tank brigades swing wide around the western suburbs, smashing isolated strongpoints and capturing crossroads that are crucial to the final closure of the ring. Villages fall in minutes. German soldiers who attempt to flee west run straight into Soviet patrols. Railway yards burn as shells land among fuel cars and ammunition wagons, sending fireballs into the sky. Luftwaffe pilots try to fly out the last surviving planes, but by the time they reach the runway, Soviet tanks are already there. One after another, the outer pockets collapse. Soldiers surrender in groups of dozens or hundreds, walking out with hands raised, faces gray from smoke and hunger. Those who refuse are overrun by afternoon. The circle draws tighter until finally, on April 25th, Soviet troops advancing from the north meet Soviet troops advancing from the southwest. The link-up is quiet, almost anticlimactic. A few handshakes, a few shouts, a red flag waved to signal success. But the meaning is enormous. Berlin is completely surrounded. No army will be coming to save it. No supplies will reach it again. Inside the city, the news spreads slowly, carried by rumor at first and then by whispered confirmation from frontline soldiers. The last hope of escape is gone. The Red Army is everywhere beyond the suburbs. Roads that once led to safety now lead only to Soviet artillery. Deep beneath the Reich Chancellery, in a bunker crowded with maps, cigarette smoke and trembling staff officers, Adolf Hitler now understands what this means. The encirclement is complete. Berlin is a trapped city, and he is trapped with it. Street fighting in Berlin in late April 1945 is unlike anything Europe has seen before. The front is no longer a line on a map. It is every street, every courtyard, every basement. Soviet assault units push into the city at dawn under a sky blackened by smoke. The moment they cross into the dense districts west of the Spree, the battle shifts into a brutal, slow grind. Flamethrower teams take the lead, spraying jets of fire through shattered doorways to clear basements where German soldiers and terrified civilians hide together. Heat blasts back into the streets as flames engulf entire rooms. Behind them, assault guns rumble forward, firing point-blank into apartment blocks. Their shells blast holes straight through walls so infantry can move room to room without exposing themselves to sniper fire. Every building becomes a fortress. Every courtyard becomes a killing zone. German defenders, many of them Volkssturm men in their 50s or 60s and boys barely 16, turn piles of rubble into barricades. They dig rifle pits in collapsed floors, set up machine guns behind overturned pianos, and fire Panzerfaust from second-story windows. From church towers and half-destroyed rooftops, snipers watch for any movement. A Soviet soldier crossing a street lasts seconds if he moves without cover. The Red Army pushes forward anyway, but every dozen meters costs lives. Soviet casualties climb quickly as they advance block by block. Entire assault groups disappear in stairwells packed with mines and booby traps. Tanks roll down boulevards only to be hit at close range by boys from the Hitler Youth who charge out of smoke with Panzerfausts held to their chests. The tank crews fire wildly, trying to see through dust and flames. Sometimes the tank survives, sometimes it doesn't. The Soviets respond with overwhelming firepower. Katyusha rockets crash into neighborhoods, shaking entire districts. But the rubble they create becomes new cover for German infantry. Battles rage inside apartments lit only by burning curtains. Soldiers crash through walls and find themselves in kitchens or children's bedrooms. Fighting moves from living room to living room, bayonets clashing, grenades rolling across broken floors. The stench of smoke, blood, and concrete dust fills the air. Around the Zoo Flak Tower, the struggle is especially savage. The massive concrete structure, designed to withstand air raids, turns into a fortress that blasts Soviet tanks with anti-aircraft guns lowered to ground level. Shells bounce off its walls. Soviet infantry tries to get close enough to place charges on weak points, but the defenders fire from slits that cannot be hit by small arms. Civilians shelter inside, listening as the walls shake but never break. The Soviets bypass it, leaving it isolated but still dangerous. In the southern districts, the fight around the Anhalter Bahnhof becomes another nightmare. The once grand train station is now a skeleton of twisted steel and shattered stone. German units hide in its underground tunnels, moving troops from one district to another unseen. Soviet soldiers advance over tracks covered in debris, stepping over bodies, engaging enemies who appear suddenly out of the smoke. Grenades explode under collapsed platforms, sending glass and metal flying. Nothing works properly, radios, maps, or plans. Commanders lose contact with entire battalions inside the maze of ruins. Further east, the push toward the government district becomes a broad front of destruction. The Soviets know that taking the center means ending the war. German SS units fight with grim determination, holding every bridge and canal crossing they can. They blow up spans the moment Red Army tanks appear. Soviet engineers rush forward under fire to build makeshift crossings. Mortars and artillery pound government buildings until their interiors collapse. Soldiers wade through smoke-filled hallways where staircases hang loose from shattered walls. The Tiergarten becomes a forest of burning trees and broken armor. Bodies lie everywhere, German, Soviet, civilian. Horses used to pull artillery have collapsed in the mud. Trucks burn quietly as shells whistle overhead. Each day the circle around the Reich Chancellery grows smaller. By the end of April, the Soviets stand at the edge of the final symbol of Nazi power, the Reichstag. Its dome has been shattered by bombs, its columns riddled with bullet holes, its windows blown out. But for the Red Army, this building is more than a target. It is the physical symbol of Nazi rule, and taking it will signal the end. The fight for the Reichstag is close quarters, vicious and slow. Soviet infantry rush across open ground under machine gun fire from surviving German positions. Some crawl forward using shell craters as cover. Tanks fire into the building to suppress snipers in the upper floors. Once inside, the fighting becomes room-by-room chaos. Grenades roll down hallways. Smoke blinds both sides. Men fire at shadows. Staircases are blocked with furniture and sandbags. German soldiers fight to the last, knowing there is nowhere left to retreat. Soviet troops raise flashlights as they move, illuminating murals, shattered statues, and corridors filled with dust. They advance up broken staircases, stepping over bodies and debris. On the upper floors, the last SS defenders counterattack with grenades and pistols. The Soviets push them back inch by inch. Finally, after hours of brutal combat, Soviet soldiers reach the rooftop. Under heavy sniper fire from surrounding buildings, they climb out onto the wrecked ledge and raise a red banner over the shattered Reichstag dome. The flag flutters in the smoke-filled wind. Below, Berlin burns endlessly. The battle is not completely over, but the symbol has fallen. For the defenders inside the bunker and for the city still fighting, the message is clear. The Third Reich is finished. Life inside the Führerbunker in the final days of April 1945 feels like the world is closing in, the air growing thinner by the hour. Outside, Berlin shakes with non-stop artillery, but down here everything is muffled and sickly. The concrete walls drip with condensation. The smell of cigarette smoke, sweat, and damp uniforms never leaves. Hitler moves through the corridors like a ghost. He is pale, trembling, one hand shaking uncontrollably behind his back. His voice rises and falls without warning as he rants about armies that no longer exist, divisions destroyed months ago, and rescue forces that will never come. His generals know the truth but lie to him anyway, each one afraid to be the one who tells him the front is gone. Maps on the walls show Soviet units only blocks away. Messengers bring updates that grow worse by the minute. Bridges lost, battalions wiped out, fuel gone, ammunition nearly gone. The bunker feels smaller every day, shrinking with every explosion above. Staff whisper to each other in corners. Rumors circulate that the Soviets are already in the Tiergarten. Others say the Chancellery has been hit again and the roof is on fire. In the medical room, SS doctors quietly distribute cyanide capsules. They speak in flat, emotionless voices as though handing out aspirin. Some officers pocket them. Others stare at the tablets in their palms for long minutes before slipping them into their coats. Every sound makes people jump. The lights flicker constantly. Air pumps thud like a dying heartbeat. Down one corridor, Eva Braun tries to maintain a sense of normalcy, smiling too brightly and handing out cigarettes, pretending not to hear the artillery outside. On the night of April 28th, she and Hitler call in witnesses and hold a brief, awkward wedding ceremony. It feels unreal, like a scene acted out for no audience. When it is over, celebratory drinks are poured but nobody touches them. Hitler retreats to his room and signs his final will, blaming everyone but himself for the ruin of Germany. By the next day, the end is minutes away. Artillery lands so close dust falls from the ceiling like snow. Communications with the outside world fail entirely. Hitler takes a final meal, simple pasta, and barely eats. Those nearby avoid looking at him. He moves slowly, stiff-legged, muttering to himself, his eyes hollow. Shortly after 3 in the afternoon on April 30th, he withdraws to his private room with Eva. Staff wait outside in total silence. A single gunshot cracks through the bunker. Some flinch, others close their eyes. The door is open moments later. The smell of gunpowder drifts out. Inside, Hitler is slumped on a sofa, a pistol in his hand. Eva is beside him, dead from cyanide. Their faces already look gray. SS guards immediately wrap the bodies in blankets and carry them up the narrow staircase to the Chancellery garden, while Soviet shells explode only meters away. The group tries to burn the bodies quickly, drenching them in gasoline and lighting them while hiding behind chunks of concrete. The flames rise unevenly, scattering ash and smoke across the ruined garden. Shells keep falling, shaking the ground. Those watching know the Soviets could appear at any moment. Word spreads through the bunker that Hitler is dead. Some people cry, others look numb. A few simply nod as if the inevitable has finally arrived. Chaos follows. Goebbels assumes control nominally, but he knows there is nothing left to govern. His children sleep quietly in their room, unaware of the poison waiting for them. Later that evening, he and his wife kill them, then walk outside and commit suicide in the garden. Their bodies are burned too, though only partly. By May 1st, the bunker is breaking apart, wires ripped out, papers burned, rooms abandoned. Staff gather what they can carry and plan their escape. SS guards lead small groups up into the ruins of Berlin, hoping to slip through Soviet lines. They climb through collapsed hallways filled with smoke, push aside debris, and emerge into a city that no longer looks like a city at all. Firelight flickers across shattered buildings. Every street is a battlefield. The bunker, once the center of a regime, is now just a tomb. Those who escape run through alleys, cellars, and gardens, chased by gunfire and explosions. Some make it, most do not. The world they served has already ended. Surrender and the price of victory, the end begins quietly on the morning of May 2nd, 1945. After days of hopeless fighting, the last German officers in Berlin step out of the ruins carrying white flags made from bed sheets. Their uniforms are covered in dust, their faces blank, their weapons left behind in shattered buildings. They approach Soviet lines with hands raised, walking past burned tanks and bodies half buried in rubble. Red Army soldiers, exhausted and covered in grime, meet them with rifles lowered. There is no cheering, no celebration, just a heavy silence. The officers announce the surrender of the Berlin garrison. Soviet troops move quickly through the city, ordering the last defenders to lay down their arms. Small groups of German soldiers stumble out of basements and cellars, emerging like ghosts from beneath the ruins. Many are wounded, starving, or too shocked to speak. Others fight on for a few more minutes out of confusion or fear before being forced to surrender. The shooting slowly dies away. By midday, the city is quiet in a way it has not been in years. Berlin is no longer a battlefield. It is a graveyard. Soviet units begin rounding up prisoners, leading long columns of defeated German soldiers through streets that barely exist anymore. Many limp, some lean on each other, and some look around at the destruction with hollow eyes. Civilians step out of hiding places, blinking in the daylight, clutching bundles of whatever they manage to save. Children wander between ruins searching for food or relatives. The smell of smoke hangs everywhere, mingled with dust and the stench of death. The scale of destruction becomes impossible to comprehend. Entire districts are flattened. Whole blocks are nothing but charred stone. More than 1 million people, soldiers and civilians, have died in the struggle for Berlin. Tens of thousands more lie wounded in makeshift hospitals without medicine. Water pumps barely work. Food is gone. Survivors boil weeds in pots to stay alive. Soviet medics and infantry begin searching the ruins for anyone still breathing. They find elderly men hiding in basements, women trapped under fallen beams, children crying beside bodies. Every rescue takes hours because every building could collapse at any moment. Fires still burn unchecked because no fire brigade remains. The Red Army sets up command posts in shattered schools and government buildings. The Nazi regime is finished. The symbol of Hitler's empire lies crushed under thousands of tons of rubble. The streets where parades once marched are now trenches. The radio broadcasts that once promised victory have gone silent forever. Above ground, there is only the sound of boots, distant shouting, and the dull rumble of tanks repositioning. Word spreads quickly through the ranks. Hitler is dead, Goebbels is dead, the bunker has fallen, and the Third Reich has ceased to exist. In one moment, Berlin becomes a city without a government, without an army, without a future. Pull the camera back and the meaning becomes even clearer. The fall of Berlin is not just the end of a siege, it is the end of the war in Europe. With its capital lost and its armies collapsing on every front, Germany has nothing left to fight with. 1 week later, on May 8, 1945, the German High Command signs an unconditional surrender. Across Europe, guns finally fall silent. Cities that endured years of occupation and bombing ring bells, fire flares, or simply weep with relief. Millions of displaced families begin the long process of finding each other again. Prisoners of war walk out of camps. Concentration camp survivors stagger into the sunlight after years of horror. Everywhere people look around at ruined continents and try to understand what comes next. The cost is almost beyond imagining. Tens of millions dead, nations shattered, generations scarred. But the war is over. Berlin, once the proud capital of the Reich, stands as the final proof of what total war truly means. And as the smoke clears over the ruined city, one truth remains. In the ruins of Berlin, the war that began with blitzkrieg ended with street-to-street survival and the last breath of the Third Reich.